The story opens in a mountain village at dusk, where a villager urgently calls out to the others, warning them that night is falling and urging everyone to hurry home as it's no longer safe. He advises them to light incense and lock their doors to prevent the old black snake from sneaking into their homes. Another man, carrying a basket on his shoulder, tells a companion that he heard the old black snake had devoured 2 more people at the mountain god's temple a few days ago, one of them even a Taoist priest. He adds that while there have been no recent reports of people being eaten, many chickens and ducks have disappeared from the village. Elsewhere in the village, a son suggests to his father that they should bring their chickens inside the house for the night, even if the smell will be unpleasant, as it's better than losing them. The father agrees, saying that if the old black snake eats them, it would be a great loss. As the father and son walk away, the father suddenly feels a chill and wonders aloud if the weather has been growing colder. Inside the house that the father and son just left, a pair of glowing eyes emerge from the shadows, revealing the presence of the old black snake, the very creature the villagers fear. This snake, however, is not just the monster they speak of, but the protagonist of our story. As he slithers quietly around the statues and furniture, he reflects on his fragmented memories, realizing that he doesn't remember much about his past. He doesn't see himself as particularly frightening, though he acknowledges that the 2 deaths the villagers are talking about were indeed his doing. A flashback takes us to that moment. A man had been crying out for help, shouting that human elixirs were meant to replenish cultivators and accusing someone of stealing his herbs. Desperate, the man knelt before the mountain god statue, pleading for salvation. Back then, the snake couldn't understand human speech, but the man's agony and desperation were clear. Out of a sense of pity, the snake decided to end the man's suffering by devouring him. While he was eating, another person burst into the temple, screaming for the snake to release the precious human elixir he had nurtured for 10 years. The snake thought this person, too, seemed to be in great distress, so he ended his suffering as well by swallowing him. At the time, the snake believed he was reuniting 2 tormented souls, unaware of the profound consequences his actions would have. After consuming both men, the snake unexpectedly gained wisdom. Not only did a demon core form within him, but he also developed intelligence. From that moment on, he began to learn about the many dangers and terrifying things in the world he had been oblivious to before. It turns out that the black-robed men who once hunted him are part of a group known as the Snake Hunters, cultivators from the snake hunting sect. Our protagonist, the old black snake, once witnessed these hunters besiege a large flower python, making him realize just how powerful human cultivators can be. Through cultivation, these humans can constantly improve their strength, advancing from the chi refining stage to the foundation establishment stage, then to the core formation stage, and ultimately to the nascent soul stage. The snake's previous escapes were due more to his ignorance and fearlessness, but now that he has gained intelligence, he understands the gravity of the situation. Surviving against these terrifying cultivators will be his greatest challenge. Preying on larger creatures like raptors and humans has become far too risky. He knows that if he wants to survive, it's safer to target smaller prey, like poultry. However, even though he's hungry again, chickens and ducks no longer satisfy him, and they've become harder to steal with the villagers on high alert. As the snake contemplates his next move, he recalls hearing rumors about a wealthy family in Chenjia town that raises pigs. Intrigued by the thought, he decides it's worth investigating. As he slithers toward the exit, he pauses in front of some paintings of humans. He reflects on how humans love to give names to everything and thinks that perhaps he should have a name too. Studying the painting more closely, a memory surfaces. He likes the old story of the human Xu Hei. The villagers call him the old black snake, but he decides that Xu Hei would be the perfect name for himself. Later that night, Xu Hei arrives at the wealthy family's estate, where pigs are kept. As he peers through the fence, he confirms that he's found the right place. The pigs are sleeping peacefully, unaware of the danger. Towering over the fence in a predatory stance, Xu Hei sizes up the pigs, realizing their plump bodies will be quite filling for him. Glancing around, he notices that the family has already gone to bed, giving him a clear opportunity to strike. Without hesitation, Xu Hei begins devouring the pigs whole. Some, startled by the sudden attack, squeal and scatter in fear, while others remain frozen in confusion. As the pigs' cries for help grow louder, Xu Hei, annoyed, mutters to them, "Stop squealing, or you'll attract the humans and get me killed." Realizing the squeals are too loud, he quickly swallows another fleeing pig to silence it. Satisfied but feeling overly full, Xu Hei realizes he may have eaten too much. His massive meal now needs time to digest, so he decides to curl up in the pigsty and rest, knowing he still has several hours before the humans awaken. After an hour of peaceful sleep, a pair of voices disrupt the stillness. One person urgently tells the other, "I told you we should have robbed the woman," but the other voice cuts in, "Shut up, Chen Fan doesn't seem to be breathing." As Xu Hei slept, he overheard the conversation between two men. One of them scolded the injured Chen Fan, blaming him for stealing his woman and crossing their young master, Qiu. The man instructed his companion to help him deal with Chen Fan, and as they approached the pigsty, Xu Hei woke up in a panic, realizing he had unintentionally fallen asleep. Knowing how terrifying humans could be, he slithered his way up a pillar and onto the roof of the pigsty, hoping to stay hidden. From his vantage point, Xu Hei watched as the men tossed Chen Fan's body into the pigsty. After checking for any signs of life, one of the men confirmed that Chen Fan was dead. The other, in a cold and indifferent tone, suggested that dead bodies like this one could be fed to pigs. As they left, one of the men remarked on the foul smell of the place, while the other, looking around, wondered if there were fewer pigs than before. Once the men had left, Xu Hei crept closer to the body of Chen Fan, peering at it from above. He questioned whether this was truly a dead person, remembering the superstitions about dead bodies bringing bad luck. Just as Xu Hei was considering making his escape, something unexpected happened. Chen Fan's eyes opened. Xu Hei was shocked and confused, wondering if the man had come back to life or if he was witnessing the rise of a zombie. To Xu Hei's further astonishment, Chen Fan sat up, coughing and laughing in a sinister, triumphant manner. It became clear that this was no ordinary situation. Chen Fan, now seemingly possessed by something or someone else, proclaimed that he had finally succeeded in seizing a body for rebirth. As he looked down at himself, he realized that the host of the body shared the same name as him, Chen Fan, which he found both amusing and fitting for his new existence. As Chen Fan examines his new body and its memories, he quickly deduces that he has inherited a broken engagement, a crippled body, and a destroyed dantian, which severely limits his cultivation. However, rather than feeling defeated, Chen Fan grins, remarking that since he has taken over this Chen Fan's body, he will avenge him. From his vantage point on the roof, Xu Hei is utterly confused, unsure of who Chen Fan is talking to. He listens carefully, though, as Chen Fan declares that none of those who humiliated him will escape his vengeance. When Chen Fan stands up, he assesses the damage to his body, acknowledging that if he hadn't taken over, the original Chen Fan would have surely died. Despite this, he dismisses the injuries as trivial, confident that they are no obstacle for him. While Chen Fan mutters to himself, Xu Hei, still watching from above, is growing increasingly anxious. He desperately hopes that Chen Fan doesn't notice him, wishing he could disappear like John Cena, unseen and unnoticed. Realizing this isn't a good place for him, Xu Hei knows he needs to escape before something goes wrong. But before he can make his move, Chen Fan spots him, causing Xu Hei to freeze in fear. Startled by being discovered, Xu Hei remembers Chen Fan's earlier claims of being an immortal and immediately panics. He begins to wonder if Chen Fan is a high-level cultivator, possibly even a snake hunter, and his anxiety grows. If Chen Fan really is a snake hunter, Xu Hei knows he's as good as dead. However, to Xu Hei's surprise, Chen Fan doesn't seem to care about him at all. To Chen Fan, Xu Hei is nothing more than a low-level spiritual beast at the first stage, not even worth his attention. Unbothered, Chen Fan sits down, positioning himself to begin cultivating. He remarks to himself that his primary focus is healing, and as he releases a surge of spiritual energy into the air, it radiates with enough force to intimidate Xu Hei. As Chen Fan begins cultivating, a massive golden aura erupts from his body, taking the form of a dragon. Chen Fan is caught off guard, astonished by the sudden manifestation, as he didn't expect the demon clan treasure, the Demon God Cauldron, to be reborn with his consciousness. He shouts toward the primordial dragon, accusing it of having miscalculated. Xu Hei, watching from above, is filled with dread. In his mind, this is the end. He believes the snake hunter has cast some powerful spell and is certain that Chen Fan has discovered he stole the pigs and now seeks to kill him. As the golden dragon radiates power, Xu Hei panics, realizing that he doesn't want to die. He contemplates if he should just return the pigs, but then remembers he's almost finished digesting them. Amidst his confusion and fear, Chen Fan continues shouting, declaring that heaven and earth are the board and all living beings are the pieces. Xu Hei, terrified and unsure of what to do, watches as Chen Fan continues to proclaim his ambitions, vowing to conquer the world and place everyone under his feet. But before Chen Fan can continue his boasts, Xu Hei, driven by desperation, decides there is no other way. In a moment of frantic resolve, Xu Hei leaps down from the roof, his jaws opening wide as he descends directly onto Chen Fan. Before Chen Fan can even react, Xu Hei swallows him whole, thinking to himself that Chen Fan had forced him into this situation. After gulping him down, Xu Hei is momentarily relieved that his plan worked, but he knows he can't let his guard down yet. Quickly slithering out of the pigsty, Xu Hei realizes just how dangerous the place has become. His thoughts racing, he knows he must escape immediately to avoid any further peril. As Xu Hei flees in desperation, Chen Fan, furious and unaffected by Xu Hei's digestion, remarks with disdain how a lowly spiritual beast at the first level has no idea what it is dealing with. Gathering his strength from within Xu Hei's body, Chen Fan questions why Xu Hei would dare attack him when he had been given the chance to flee, suggesting that Xu Hei is courting death. Without hesitation, Chen Fan unleashes his infinite ocean technique, causing Xu Hei to scream in agony as the spell ravages his insides, making him bleed. Despite the pain coursing through his body, Xu Hei is in disbelief that Chen Fan not only survived, but is capable of casting powerful spells from inside his stomach. Chen Fan, relentless, continues to assault Xu Hei's body from within. A powerful kick to Xu Hei's stomach lands a critical blow, and Xu Hei, writhing in pain, realizes that Chen Fan is far more dangerous than he ever imagined. In a desperate attempt to gather himself, Xu Hei tries to remain calm, reminding himself that he still possesses his demonic core, the source of his power. But before Xu Hei can fully reassure himself, Chen Fan locates the core, shocking him. Panicking, Xu Hei tries to activate his protective shield, knowing it is his lifeblood. However, the shield proves insufficient. Chen Fan destroys the demonic core with a ruthless strike, causing Xu Hei to bleed profusely, his strength draining rapidly. As he stumbles to the ground, severely wounded and barely able to move, Xu Hei's mind reels in horror at the realization of how powerful snake hunters truly are. In his final moments, Xu Hei screams in unbearable pain, feeling his life slipping away. He realizes with a crushing sense of inevitability that he is about to die. Immobilized, he is overwhelmed with regret. Having just awakened his consciousness and condensed a demon core, he cannot accept that his life is ending so soon. Xu Hei's mind races with bitter questions. Why did this have to happen to him? If he had known this would be the outcome, he would never have stolen that pig, nor would he have come to this place at all. As Xu Hei lay on the verge of death, Chen Fan continued to devour his insides, mocking Xu Hei's weakness and remarking how the snake's flesh would now replenish his energy. However, just as Xu Hei was about to perish, the Demon God Cauldron suddenly manifested, much to Chen Fan's surprise. The cauldron began reconstructing Xu Hei's shattered demonic core, leaving Chen Fan bewildered. He attempted to command the cauldron to stop and return to him, but to his shock, he found that he couldn't control it. Confused and panicked, Chen Fan questioned how this was possible, but the cauldron persisted, completing the restoration of Xu Hei's demonic core. As the demonic core was reassembled, a brilliant light erupted, momentarily blinding Chen Fan. As his vision cleared, the golden dragon from earlier, which had appeared during his cultivation, materialized once more. Chen Fan was left speechless, unable to comprehend why his Demon God Cauldron had absorbed the fragments of Xu Hei's demonic core. It dawned on him that perhaps Xu Hei was not an ordinary snake demon after all. This new realization sent a wave of dread through him as he speculated on the true nature of the beast he had been underestimating. Sensing the dire nature of the situation, Chen Fan prepared to flee. But before he could make his escape, the golden dragon unleashed a powerful beam of golden light directly at him. The impact was overwhelming, and Chen Fan screamed in agony as the light seared through him. Meanwhile, outside, Xu Hei's snake body began to dissolve, golden light spilling from his form, creating an awe-inspiring yet terrifying spectacle. As Chen Fan burned away within the golden light, he desperately protested, shouting that he was a dignified immortal and that such a fate was impossible. But his cries were in vain, and before he could act, he was vaporized into nothing but ashes. As the sun rose and the golden light slowly faded, Xu Hei's body, now nothing but a shell, dissolved with it. Xu Hei, feeling the loss of his demonic core completely, wept, knowing that everything he had fought for was now gone. The pigs around him, having survived the chaotic night, stared at him in a mixture of confusion and disbelief, as if stunned by what they had just witnessed. As the pigs roamed around Xu Hei's newly formed body, one of them began chewing on his tail, attempting to tear at his skin. Before it could cause any damage, Xu Hei angrily lifted the pig with his bruised tail and shouted at it, warning all the pigs not to bite his tail again. Furious, he threatened to devour them all if they dared to try again. The pigs, terrified by his outburst, scattered in panic, some stumbling as they fled. Xu Hei winced as he examined his bruised tail, cursing and shouting in pain at the pigs. Before he could let his anger consume him further, Xu Hei paused, his thoughts shifting to a deeper concern. He remembered that his demon core had been shattered by that immortal Chen Fan. The demon core was the very foundation of a demon beast's cultivation, and without it, survival, let alone cultivation, should have been impossible. Burdened by the weight of this realization, Xu Hei buried his face into the ground, despairing and shedding tears as he thought it was all over. But then, a puzzling thought struck him: why was he still alive if his demon core was shattered? Driven by curiosity and disbelief, he checked his body. To his astonishment, instead of finding his destroyed demon core, he discovered the Demon God Cauldron nestled within him, radiating a mysterious glow. Xu Hei was bewildered, questioning how the cauldron had ended up in the place of his core. The glowing cauldron left him with more questions than answers. As Xu Hei examined the cauldron inside him, he realized that it wasn't just replacing his core, it had given him an extraordinary new ability. He could now see inside his own body with clarity, and even more astonishingly, he could see the inner workings of the things around him. It dawned on him that this was divine perception, a rare ability only possessed by high-level cultivators. Xu Hei was thrilled to have this power, understanding that it would change everything for him. With this newfound divine perception, Xu Hei realized that he could now sense his surroundings even with his eyes closed. Excitement surged through him as he imagined how much easier it would be to hunt for food, avoid dangerous beasts, and steer clear of humans. Suddenly, Xu Hei realized that the Demon God Cauldron had granted him more than just divine perception. His mind was flooded with new knowledge, memories of cultivation techniques from Chen Fan's path poured into his brain. As he sifted through these memories, he felt overwhelmed, his head throbbing from the sheer volume of information. Yet, despite the discomfort, Xu Hei instinctively knew that this knowledge could help him heal. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he had a strong sense that whatever this was, it could restore his injuries. Determined, Xu Hei curled up and tried to imitate the meditation posture Chen Fan had used before. He recalled Chen Fan's words about heaven and earth being the chessboard, with all living beings as the pieces, and how his demon core would start to move during cultivation. As Xu Hei focused, his Demon God Cauldron began to absorb the energy from his surroundings. To his surprise, his injuries started to mend, the spiritual qi rapidly flowing into his body. After just a few minutes of practice, Xu Hei examined himself and was astonished to see his wounds already healing. His body felt rejuvenated, as if he had consumed spiritual herbs. Wrapping himself up in joy, Xu Hei realized that this cultivation technique seemed to focus primarily on enhancing his cultivation, with healing as a beneficial side effect. However, as he looked more closely at his body, he was reminded that his demon core was shattered. Storing spiritual qi without a core should have been impossible. This led him to wonder if the Demon God Cauldron had somehow taken the place of his demon core, a thought that felt both strange and unsettling. Still, Xu Hei decided not to dwell on it for now. He knew he needed to leave this dangerous place and find somewhere safe to rest for a few days before diving deeper into his cultivation journey. Xu Hei reminded himself that he could become stronger with time, but he shouldn't risk confronting humans so soon. However, before he left the area, Xu Hei realized that if he wanted to cultivate effectively, he needed to eat his fill first. After some time, Xu Hei found himself bathing under a waterfall, reflecting on the changes that had occurred since his first enlightenment after consuming the human pellet. Since that day, new knowledge had occasionally surfaced in his mind, and after devouring Chen Fan, this flow of information intensified, becoming more frequent with each passing day. One morning, a few days later, he finally understood what humans referred to as the cultivation system. To his surprise, he realized that demon beasts, like humans, had their own cultivation stages. Xu Hei discovered that the demon beast cultivation system mirrored the human one, with stages such as the spiritual stage, the establishment stage, the core formation stage, and the nascent soul stage. He recognized that his current level was at the peak of the first stage, the spiritual stage, which was equivalent to the peak of the qi refining stage in human cultivation. Understanding the system gave him a sense of purpose and ambition. Xu Hei had visions of powerful beasts who could split heaven and earth, and it stirred a deep yearning within him. He wanted to become such a beast. He knew that to stop being hunted and to live his life freely, he had to cultivate and grow stronger. Inside a secluded cave, Xu Hei continued his cultivation, repeating the phrase Chen Fan had uttered when he was alive. He had been practicing the mysterious art for several days and discovered that it did much more than just heal his injuries. The technique also improved his physique, cleared his meridians, and expelled impurities from his body. Remarkably, the cultivation process even caused him to shed his old skin, further strengthening him. A week had passed since Xu Hei began cultivating in earnest, and the changes to his body were profound. His horns had grown longer, curving elegantly from his head, and his scales had become harder and more resilient, gleaming with a majestic sheen. His entire appearance had transformed, making him look more powerful and regal, like a true demon beast on the path to greatness. However, Xu Hei grew increasingly frustrated as he examined his new body. After shedding his skin, instead of growing larger, he had somehow shrunk down to a mere 6 centimeters in length. He recalled that he had been 33 centimeters long before, and now he was tiny again, much to his irritation. He shouted in anger, questioning why he hadn't grown bigger after shedding his skin as he had expected. Just as he was seething over his small size, a bird, about the same size as him, appeared nearby. Instinctively, Xu Hei struck it with his tail before it could flee, immobilizing it with surprising speed and precision. Without hesitation, he swallowed the bird whole. Despite his smaller size, he noticed that his speed, power, and reflexes had improved significantly. His body stretched effortlessly as he ate, and he realized that with enough effort, he could likely still devour larger prey. Xu Hei also felt a deep connection to the Demon God Cauldron, now certain it had fully become his new demon core. He could sense spiritual qi accumulating within it, and he knew he was on the verge of breaking through to the next stage. However, he also realized that the energy consumption of his cultivation art was immense. The technique allowed him to absorb heaven and earth's spiritual qi, but merely absorbing it wasn't enough. He needed resources, something more substantial to fuel his breakthrough. As he pondered his next move, he spotted a wild boar in a nearby field, chomping down on watermelons. The boar was large and formidable, but Xu Hei was undeterred. Although dangerous, especially with its size, Xu Hei knew that according to the cultivation system, he was now at the peak of the first spiritual stage. The boar, lacking any significant intelligence or cultivation ability, was weaker than him. Confident that he could overpower the beast with proper preparation, Xu Hei decided that the boar would make a perfect meal. Not only would it replenish his strength, but it would also give him the necessary energy to push through to the next stage of his cultivation. With his enhanced speed and power, Xu Hei prepared to strike, ready to claim his next meal. As Xu Hei crept down to the field, he grabbed a few rocks in preparation for his ambush, confident that the boar hadn't noticed him at all. But as he moved closer, the boar suddenly turned around, radiating a menacing aura that made Xu Hei sweat bullets. Panic surged through him, and he sarcastically muttered to himself, questioning if the watermelon the boar was eating was that good. The boar let out a fierce roar, and Xu Hei's confidence shattered. He turned and bolted, screaming in fear and yelling for the boar to stay away, questioning why it was so terrifying. Before Xu Hei could run far, he found himself facing the cliff he had just climbed down. With nowhere to go and no other options, he knew he couldn't keep running. Resolving himself, he realized that it was either fight or die. Gritting his teeth, Xu Hei grabbed the rocks he had collected and threw them at the boar with all his might, hoping to at least injure it and buy himself some time to think of another plan. To his surprise, the rock pierced straight through the boar's body, and the beast collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Xu Hei stood frozen, stunned by what had just happened. He questioned if the boar was truly dead and marveled at his own strength, wondering if he really was that amazing. But he kept his distance, cautious. Knowing that wild boars could be clever, Xu Hei suspected that it might be playing dead. He collected more rocks and threw them at the motionless boar, striking it again and again to ensure it wasn't faking. After repeatedly confirming that the boar wasn't moving, Xu Hei let out a long sigh of relief, confident that it was truly dead this time. Recalling how close he had come to being killed, Xu Hei realized just how lucky he had been. To be absolutely certain the boar wouldn't somehow come back to life, like Chen Fan had done, Xu Hei decided to slice the boar into parts, dismembering it to prevent any surprises. Feeling safe at last, Xu Hei ate the boar with newfound confidence, enjoying his victory. As he devoured the meat, he commented to himself on how much firmer the boar's flesh was compared to pigs, finding its taste both interesting and satisfying. As Xu Hei continued consuming the boar, he suddenly felt something uncomfortable in his mouth. Spitting it out in confusion, he was shocked to see that it was a demon core. Surprised, he realized the boar he had just devoured wasn't an ordinary one, but a demon beast. Demon cores contained volatile and violent energy, and Xu Hei knew that consuming them raw could cause one's body to explode, potentially killing him. The proper way to absorb such power was by refining the core into a pill, but Xu Hei had no idea how to do that. He pondered for a moment, remembering that in the wild, beasts often consumed both the body and the core of their prey. If eating demon cores raw truly caused beasts to explode, then they would have gone extinct long ago. Xu Hei realized that much of his knowledge about demon cores came from humans, and the physiology of beasts and humans was likely different. With renewed certainty, he concluded that he should be able to consume the core without refining it. Filled with determination, Xu Hei opened his mouth wide and lunged at the demon core, struggling for a bit to swallow it whole. Once he managed to get it down, his stomach began to glow, and a wave of heat surged through his body. He immediately questioned whether the Demon God Cauldron within him was absorbing the demon core's force. The sensation intensified as the cauldron rapidly filled with the powerful energy of the core. Excitement bubbled within Xu Hei as he felt something familiar, a sensation he had experienced before. He knew what was coming. After the cauldron absorbed the core's energy fully, Xu Hei felt a powerful shift inside him. With a surge of exhilaration, he realized that he had broken through to the second spiritual stage, also known as the psychic level 2. Looking at his body, Xu Hei was thrilled to see 2 of his tail scales had turned golden, symbolizing his breakthrough. Filled with excitement, he tested his new power, striking a nearby rock with his golden-scaled tail. The force shattered the rock, and Xu Hei marveled at how strong and iron-like his new scales had become. Before he could relish the moment further, Xu Hei sensed something nearby. Looking up, he felt a sudden wave of dread as he spotted a human holding a weapon, staring directly at him. Xu Hei began to sweat bullets, his newfound strength clashing with his instinctual fear of humans. The young boy points his weapon at Xu Hei, who, confused and fearful, wonders what the boy intends to do. He questions whether the boy is preparing to attack him. Beads of sweat form as Xu Hei considers if the child might be a cultivator like Chen Fan. As these thoughts run through his mind, Chen Fan suddenly warns him to be cautious, just as the boy attempts to strike. Sensing the danger, Xu Hei quickly lashes out with his tail, shattering the boy's weapon into pieces. He then slithers away in a worm-like manner, thinking to himself how terrifying humans are. Fearing the arrival of the boy's companions, Xu Hei decides he must flee before they catch up. The boy, stunned by Xu Hei's swift attack and retreat, watches for a moment before smiling in relief. He calls out to his father, exclaiming that the old black snake ate the pig demon that killed his mother but spared him. His father, puzzled, questions why the boy is outside. As Xu Hei escapes into the forest, he glances back in fear, relieved to see that no one is pursuing him. Something feels off about the boy, and Xu Hei wonders if the child might simply be ordinary. He begins to question if he's under some spell that causes him to fear children, feeling a sense of shame as he remembers his ambition to become a mighty beast. Now at the Mountain God Temple, Xu Hei decides to enter and pray, hoping to calm his troubled mind. After all, it was here that he gained enlightenment, making him think this place might bring him luck. Inside the temple, Xu Hei recalls hearing that inner demons are a significant obstacle in cultivation, and that sincerity is key to overcoming them. Standing before the statue of the mountain god, holding some sticks, Xu Hei announces that he has returned to seek guidance. However, before he can begin praying, he catches the scent of something enticing. Looking over the table, Xu Hei drooled in disbelief at the sheer amount of food laid out in front of the mountain god, wondering where it had all come from. Without hesitation, he leaped onto the offerings, reasoning that the mountain god wouldn't want food to go to waste. He convinced himself that by eating these offerings first, his prayers would be more sincere. After gorging on the food, Xu Hei knelt to pray, asking the mountain god to bless him with smooth cultivation, strength, and a good life. His prayers, however, were abruptly interrupted by a man's loud shouting, asking a girl where they could run now. The girl cried out for help, and Xu Hei, startled by their presence, quickly hid behind the statue. He cursed his luck, wondering why there were more people again. As the girl ran into the temple, one of the men ordered the others to wait outside, saying he would go in and have some fun. The rest agreed, calling him young Master Chiu. Xu Hei watched as the girl darted into the temple, only to find herself trapped in the dead end. He thought she was foolish for running in, knowing there was only one door to the temple and no way for her to escape. From behind the statue, he observed the scene, trying to figure out what they intended to do. Qiu, moving closer to the girl, boasted that no woman he fancied had ever disobeyed him. The girl, gripping a knife, warned Qiu to stay back, telling him to act sensibly or she would make him regret it. Holding the knife to her throat, tears streaming down her face, the girl tells Qiu that even if she can't kill him, she can still end her own life, warning him that he'll gain nothing from her. Hearing Qiu's name, Xu Hei recalls his time in the pigsty and remembers this was the man who had thrown Chen Fan into the pigsty. Xu Hei concludes that if Qiu was able to beat Chen Fan half to death, he must be a powerful figure, and Xu Hei is determined not to be discovered. As he observes Qiu's actions, Xu Hei questions whether the man is in heat, finding human behavior odd since they seem to enter heat at any time, unlike him who only does so in spring. He can't fathom what Qiu finds attractive in the girl's frail body. As Xu Hei watches, Qiu slams the girl to the ground and takes the knife from her hands. Grinning with malicious intent, Qiu taunts her, questioning how she could ever threaten him with suicide, telling her that today he will definitely rape her before killing her. Listening to their exchange, Xu Hei acknowledges that while Qiu might be strong, he doesn't seem particularly intelligent. The girl, trying to cover herself while sobbing, shouts at Qiu, reminding him that he forced her to break off their engagement, killed her beloved Chen Fan, and now wants to humiliate her. She vows that even as a ghost, she will never forgive him. As Xu Hei casually munches on an apple, he finds the situation unnecessary, particularly since no one is killing for food. He silently prays to the mountain god, hoping the matter will be settled quickly so he can leave undisturbed. But to his surprise, the arms of the statue suddenly break off and fall right in front of the girl and Qiu, leaving them both in shock. The girl's eyes widen in astonishment, believing it to be a sign from the mountain god, and she rushes toward the statue. Qiu, now alarmed, shouts, demanding to know who is hiding behind the statue. The girl, convinced that the mountain god has intervened, kneels before the statue, praying fervently, asking the god to bless the mountain, protect the people, and save her from her predicament. But as the girl looks up, Xu Hei suddenly appears in front of her. Realizing he might be doomed, Xu Hei freezes, while the girl, terrified out of her mind, screams that a monster is before her. In a frantic attempt to escape, she runs straight into the knife Qiu Gang is holding. Qiu Gang lets out a scream of shock and horror as the girl he had lusted after falls lifeless at his feet. Qiu's lackeys rush into the temple, curious and confused, asking their young master if he had finished with the girl so quickly. Now enraged, Qiu Gang snaps at them, calling one of them an idiot and angrily explaining that a little demon is causing trouble in the temple. He shouts at Xu Hei, demanding to know what kind of demon dares to ruin his fun, and orders him to come out. Qiu Gang boasts that he is an outer disciple of the snake-catching sect and warns Xu Hei that he's out of luck, having crossed paths with them. Xu Hei begins to sweat bullets, realizing he didn't expect to encounter this group so soon. Qiu Gang orders his lackeys to search the temple, reminding them to stay alert. As they comb the area, calling for Xu Hei to reveal himself, fear grips Xu Hei. He is certain they've come to kill him, but something stirs inside him. Rather than continue hiding, he decides he might as well face them and fight. Xu Hei gathers his courage and strikes at one of the lackeys, who immediately collapses in terror upon realizing that Xu Hei is a snake demon. Qiu Gang sneers at his cowering lackeys, mocking them for being afraid of a snake that isn't even 7 feet long. Furious at their cowardice, Qiu Gang declares that he will gather his energy and kill Xu Hei in a single strike. He boasts that offering Xu Hei as a prize will secure his place as a formal apprentice within the snake-catching sect. As Qiu Gang begins gathering energy into his hands, he reminds his lackeys that it will take time for him to charge his attack. He orders them to hold off Xu Hei and target his weak spots. Facing them, Xu Hei quickly assesses the situation, realizing that Qiu Gang is the strongest among them, and knowing he must act before Qiu completes his preparation. Xu Hei understands that his only chance of survival is to kill them all, so he strikes the lackeys simultaneously, dismembering them in one swift motion. He stands in shock for a moment, surprised by how weak they are. Qiu Gang, watching in horror as his lackeys die instantly, trembles in disbelief. He questions what kind of monster Xu Hei could be, his fear growing as he realizes how powerless he is. Without finishing his energy build-up, Qiu Gang panics and runs toward the temple exit, shouting to Xu Hei that the snake-catching sect won't let him off so easily. Xu Hei, puzzled, wonders why Qiu Gang chose to flee instead of completing his attack. As Xu runs, he threatens that his master will turn Xu Hei into a pill, confirming to Xu Hei that the situation is far from over. Determined not to let Qiu Gang escape, Xu Hei strikes, landing a blow to Qiu's head, killing him instantly. With a sigh of relief, Xu Hei reflects that he narrowly avoided disaster. He remarks to himself that it was pure luck Qiu chose to run instead of gathering his energy. However, as the adrenaline fades, Xu Hei begins to sweat bullets, his thoughts turning to the mountain god. He wonders if his near-death experience is punishment for stealing the offerings, fearing that the god may be angry with him. In a hurry, Xu Hei gathers the bodies of the people he just killed, thinking he must replace the stolen offerings to appease the mountain god. Kneeling before the statue, he begins to pray, begging the mountain god not to be angry. Xu Hei promises to offer these people as a substitute for the food he took, hoping this will calm the god's wrath. Xu Hei thinks the mountain god was sending him a reminder to hurry up and cultivate, or else he'll be forced to live in hiding forever. In his mind, he imagines the mountain god saying that if the heavens intend to give a snake a great mission, they must first make it suffer, testing its will, straining its bones, starving its body, and emptying its being. He imagines that this suffering will lead him to become a fearsome snake in the demon world. Finishing this thought, Xu Hei feels enlightened and thanks the mountain god for the wisdom. As he leaves the temple, he reassures the god not to worry, promising to return to the mountains to train immediately, though he takes the offering he had just made with him. After a week inside his mountain cave, Xu Hei sighs in frustration. He has been cultivating diligently, but despite his efforts, he is still far from filling the second layer of spiritual mist. The small beasts he's been hunting and eating daily aren't enough to satisfy his hunger or aid his cultivation. He begins to pray for a wild boar demon to show up, something that would give him the energy he desperately needs. Out in the fields, Xu Hei wonders why he hasn't caught any prey yet. He remembers hearing humans talk about waiting for rabbits by guarding a tree stump, thinking that the same idea should work for waiting for pigs. But despite all the days spent waiting, not a single wild boar has appeared. These days, he hasn't caught anything substantial, struggling just to fill his belly, let alone cultivate. As his mind drifts back to thoughts of the wild boar, Xu Hei recalls that they eat melons. That sparks an idea: if they eat melons, and he eats them, maybe he should try eating melons too. As Xu Hei watches from a distance, he notices a father and son walking through the field. The son comments that they caught too many fish this year due to the river rising, prompting Xu Hei to wonder if this is the same kid who held the fork last time. When they reach their house, Xu Hei's attention shifts to the strong man accompanying them, making him curious if this melon field belongs to them. The son suddenly looks up and spots Xu Hei, startling him. Xu Hei is baffled at how the boy could notice him from such a distance. The boy runs toward Xu Hei with a basket, causing the father to question where his son is headed and making Xu Hei instinctively hide atop a tree, still suspicious of the boy. From his perch, Xu Hei watches as the boy places the basket full of fish under the tree, leaving Xu Hei to ponder what the kid might be up to. To Xu Hei's surprise, the boy leaves the basket and calls out, telling Xu Hei the fish are to repay him and encouraging him to come down and eat. Hesitant, Xu Hei slithers down and cautiously inspects the basket. The sight of the fish makes him drool, but he questions the boy's motives. Why would the kid give him fish? Xu Hei grows suspicious, wondering if this could be a trap. Perhaps the fish are poisoned, and he can't afford to fall for it. But as he examines the basket, he notices the fish are still flopping around, alive and fresh. Unable to resist, he takes a small bite, intending only to sample the fish. He thinks it lacks flavor, but his hunger gets the better of him, and soon he takes another bite, then another, until his head is buried in the basket, devouring the fish. He realizes with delight that they are delicious. The boy, watching from a distance, notes that the old black snake seems to love fish. As he walks back toward his house, a towering man steps into his path, calling out to him. The man tells the boy he has a question and asks if he has seen the old black snake recently. The boy quickly realizes that these men in black robes are from the snake-catching sect, and they are here to capture the old black snake. One of the black-robed men, growing impatient, asks the boy to speak, questioning if a cat has gotten his tongue. The boy, trying to keep his composure, replies that he has never seen any old black snake before. The man standing in the back, less interested, tells his senior brother Ding that questioning the boy is pointless, as he clearly doesn't know anything. Ding clicks his tongue in frustration just as crows begin to flee from the mountaintop, their sudden departure drawing the men's attention. One of the hunters asks what could be causing the noise over there. Pushing the boy aside, Ding tells his partner that they should go check it out, speculating that the old black snake might be hiding in the area. Hearing this, the boy internally panics, hoping desperately that the old black snake will escape before they catch him, and he starts to sweat in fear. Before the snake hunters can head toward the mountain, a commotion breaks out as several people shout that the old black snake has eaten someone in the river. The hunters immediately change course, convinced that their prey is now in the water. Both men sprint toward the river, with Ding urging his partner to move quickly so the snake doesn't escape. As the boy watches the chaos unfold, he is filled with confusion. He clearly remembers that the old black snake was just here, eating the fish he had left. How could the snake be at the river eating someone at the same time? After breaking some eggs, Xu Hei flees for his life, barely avoiding being discovered by the snake catchers. He wonders aloud when he had ever eaten anyone in the river, confused by the false accusation. Hearing the conversation between the boy and the snake catchers, Xu Hei briefly ponders why the boy claimed to have never seen him. But he quickly dismisses the thought, deciding that the complexities of the human world are beyond his understanding. What matters most right now is that the snake catchers are hunting him, and if he wants to survive, he must never return to this area again. Glancing at the river, Xu Hei considers escaping to the other side and hiding in the mountains for a few months. He believes it would be safer there, away from human settlements. As he slithers into the water, Xu Hei remembers that winter will arrive in 3 months, and he hasn't stored any food yet. This realization strikes him hard, as he knows that during the winter, his cultivation will likely stagnate without proper resources. As Xu Hei swims across the river, a massive shadow suddenly looms before him, making his heart race. Startled, he questions what the dark figure is. Before he can gather his thoughts, a giant eel bursts out of the water and lunges at him, its mouth wide open. Xu Hei dodges just in time, barely escaping the eel's attack. Shocked, he realizes that a dangerous monster inhabits this river. As he examines the creature more closely, he wonders if it is truly an eel, noting that its body resembles that of a snake and it seems to have come from upstream. Xu Hei begins to wonder if the eel might be the true culprit behind the rumors of people being eaten in the river, while he takes the blame. As the injured eel approaches him again, Xu Hei realizes it has likely already fought a fierce battle with the snake catchers. He questions why the eel would still attack him as he passes by. Watching it devour the smaller fish around him, Xu Hei speculates that the eel may be trying to recover its strength by eating anything it can, including him. Smirking at the thought, Xu Hei briefly considers turning the tables, thinking that by that logic, the eel could be his food for the winter. However, reality sets in quickly as he reasons that if the eel managed to fight off the snake catchers and escape, it must be quite strong. Hunting it would be far too dangerous, and right now, survival is his top priority. Deciding to flee, Xu Hei slithers away, only to find the eel catching up to him once again, its mouth wide open and ready to strike. Just as the eel lunges, Xu Hei dodges and manages to injure the eel, sending it crashing into a wall with a broken ankle. Despite the small victory, Xu Hei is confused by the eel's relentless pursuit and realizes that he can't keep running, his energy is depleting rapidly. Desperate, Xu Hei decides his only chance of survival is to use all his strength to break through the eel's weaker abdomen. Summoning all his remaining energy, Xu Hei strikes the eel's belly and attempts to take a bite. But he immediately spits it out, disgusted by the sticky, slimy texture and its odd taste. Suddenly, Xu Hei feels a burning heat, which confuses him. He questions how there could be fire here in the middle of the river. To his astonishment, the water around him has transformed into flames. Xu Hei, disoriented, wonders if he's caught in some sort of illusion and begins to suspect that the eel's slime might have something to do with it. His mind races as he tries to figure out what's happening, unsure whether he's trapped in a hallucination or if the eel's attack has triggered some strange, fiery reaction. Xu Hei, feeling the intense heat, quickly realizes that it was merely a reflex from his body losing control. He recalls Chen Fan's cultivation method, which mentioned that when faced with an illusion, the first step is to calm the mind, gather all energy, and focus it into a single point of consciousness. Following this advice, Xu Hei concentrates, and soon, a golden dragon aura begins to emanate from his body as he manages to break through the illusion. Filled with a sense of triumph, Xu Hei jumps in joy, shouting that he finally broke free. But his celebration is short-lived as he suddenly sees the eel right in front of him, ready to devour him whole. Realizing he can't dodge in time, Xu Hei instinctively curls up, protecting himself with his tail as the eel lunges. However, to the eel's shock, and Xu Hei's, his tail slices cleanly through the eel's head and body, cutting it in half. Xu Hei floats in the water, stunned. He watches as the lifeless body of the eel sinks to the riverbed. For a moment, he is unable to comprehend what just happened, astonished that he had sliced the eel in half with his tail. As he regains his composure, Xu Hei looks down at the eel's body and notices that his golden scales are incredibly sharp. He begins to understand that if he can refine his entire body, he could become nearly unbeatable. Despite the victory, Xu Hei reminds himself not to become overconfident. He knows that this battle was won by sheer luck. The eel was heavily injured, and it had accidentally crashed into his sharp, golden scales. Now that the immediate danger has passed, he focuses on his next step. Xu Hei decides he needs to gather his things and head to the mountains, where he can cultivate in safety. Wrapping up the eel meat, Xu Hei realizes that this monster's flesh will last him for months, enough to sustain his cultivation in the mountains. Moreover, with the demon core from the eel, Xu Hei feels confident that he will be able to break through to the third stage of spiritual enlightenment. As Xu Hei inspects the body of the eel, he discovers a token embedded in its flesh. Upon closer examination, he realizes it belongs to the snake-catching sect, and he begins to wonder if the eel had devoured a snake-catcher at some point. Bowing respectfully to the eel's body, Xu Hei speaks to it, acknowledging that although it had helped him by eliminating a threat, it still tried to eat him, and thus, he had no choice but to follow the law of nature. He reassures the dead eel that its death won't be in vain, promising to use every part of it, including its demonic core. When Xu Hei attempts to consume the demonic core, he struggles, feeling that the process will take more time than he has right now. Realizing that the snake catchers will likely come after him soon, he knows he must leave immediately. Packing the eel meat, Xu Hei resolves to refine the demon core once he is safely hidden in the mountains. Later, as the snake catchers arrive at the scene, they discover the body of the dead eel. Upon finding one of Xu Hei's scales nearby, they begin to piece together the situation. One of them remarks that the river monster, which had been blamed for eating someone, wasn't the old black snake after all. However, they now confirm that the old black snake had fought and killed the river monster here. One of the junior snake catchers, frustrated by Xu Hei's elusive nature, asks if they should continue pursuing him. Ding, the senior among them, considers the situation and points toward the distant mountains. He explains that the area ahead is known as Iron Bear Mountain, and one of the bears living there is at the peak of the third stage of spiritual enlightenment. He warns his companion that the bear's strength should not be underestimated, and the mountains are vast, with deep forests. They could spend months searching for Xu Hei without success, and worse, they could provoke the powerful bear demon. The other snake catcher asks Ding if he's heard the rumors from a few days ago, that the old black snake supposedly devoured an alchemist from the Directorate of Celestial Sishianjian, along with the human pill the alchemist had cultivated for years. Ding, curious but cautious, asks what his companion is trying to imply. The catcher reminds him that the effects of that powerful human pill must still be lingering within the old black snake's body, adding that Ding has been stuck at the third stage of true cultivation for years. He suggests that this might be Ding's best opportunity to break through, urging him that they should seize the chance and act in secret. Ding considers the idea, complimenting the catcher on his clever thinking. However, he warns him that it would be dangerous for just the two of them to enter the mountains at this time. The risks are high, and if they fail, they could lose everything. But the catcher reassures Ding, pointing out that in a few months, the winter snow will seal off the mountains. Both the bear demon and the old black snake will be forced into hibernation. When that time comes, they can enter the mountains with little resistance and claim their prize. Ding, realizing that his subordinate's logic is sound, agrees to the plan. They decide to bide their time until the snows arrive, making their move once the demons are vulnerable. Meanwhile, deep in the mountains, Xu Hei has found a cave to settle in. He notes how warm and cozy the cave is, an ideal refuge for the coming months. Hanging the eel meat from the ceiling to dry, Xu Hei feels a sense of relief. The cave will provide him with safety and shelter for the winter, allowing him to hide out and focus on cultivation without the immediate threat of the snake catchers or other dangers. With the meat supply from the eel and the demon core he plans to refine, Xu Hei feels confident he can use this time to strengthen himself in peace. 2 months later, at winter, deep in the mountains, Xu Hei reflects on his cultivation journey. He never imagined that breaking through from the second to the third level of spiritual communication would be so much more difficult than his previous advancements. Despite refining the demonic core and flesh of the eel and cultivating diligently all this time, he still hasn't made the breakthrough. However, there have been small signs of progress. 3 more golden scales have appeared on his tail, indicating growth. The spiritual mist in his cauldron is now completely full, signaling that he's at the peak of the second level, and Xu Hei calculates that he only needs one final opportunity to break through to the third level. Yet, winter has arrived, and his body is beginning to stiffen with the cold. Worse, his food supply is nearly depleted. Knowing he must soon hibernate, Xu Hei resolves to survive the winter and wait for spring, when he can resume his cultivation and search for more resources. Meanwhile, near the mountains, a group of people, accompanied by snake catchers, are searching the area. One of the snake catchers addresses the group, promising that everyone who helps in the search will be rewarded with a coin, urging them to be thorough. One of the searchers confidently reassures the snake catcher that when it comes to finding snakes, they're the best, even if they aren't skilled at much else. He boasts that his 2 hunting dogs are specially trained, and as long as there's any trace of a snake, his dogs will be able to find it. The snake catcher cuts off the dog owner mid-sentence, walking away while brusquely telling the searchers to stop talking and start searching. Feeling a bit embarrassed, the dog owner instructs his dogs to find the snake's nest, while an elder among the searchers mutters about how rude the snake catchers are. The dog owner tells Brother Lee not to speak nonsense, acknowledging that the snake catchers have real skills, unlike them, who are merely tagging along for some extra benefits. As he blushes, his thoughts drift to his son, who loves reading. He plans to use the reward money to send his son to study under Mr. Chu, imagining how happy that will make him. Suddenly, the dogs begin barking loudly, signaling they've found something. The dog owner is surprised that they've located the snake so quickly and calls out to the snake catchers, confidently stating that it's likely the lair of the old black snake. The snake catcher, uninterested in speculation, commands everyone to move aside so he can see for himself. Meanwhile, inside his cave, Xu Hei panics. He realizes that they found him far sooner than he anticipated, and at the worst possible moment. His body is cold and stiff from the winter chill, making him unable to fight back or flee. The dog owner excitedly points out the evidence, saying there are even old black snake droppings near the entrance to the nest. As the snake catchers move closer to examine the area, the dog owner, feeling confident, starts to ask for his reward. But before he can finish, the snake catchers snap at him, calling him a fool. They inform him that the droppings belong to a bear, not a snake, and sarcastically ask if his dog even knows how to track properly. The dog owner, confused and defensive, insists that his dogs have never made a mistake when tracking snakes. However, the snake catcher retorts coldly, asking if the dog owner really believes he knows more than a professional snake catcher. Pointing toward a large hole, the snake catcher declares that he's found the snake's den and orders the dog owner to take the villagers to check it out. Reluctantly, the dog owner agrees, though doubt lingers in his mind. Inside the cave, Xu Hei listens closely and sighs in relief. His cautious preparations had paid off. He had blocked the real entrance to his den with stones, camouflaged it with branches, and scattered bear droppings on top as a deterrent. Additionally, he had dug the false hole 6 feet deep, making it nearly impossible for anyone to detect his real lair. Even though he might have been scaring himself unnecessarily, Xu Hei knows he can't take any chances. He needs to quickly gather his energy and restore his body, just in case the snake catchers figure out the deception. Meanwhile, the snake catcher confirms with Ding that the hidden den is indeed a snake's. Ding reassures him, stating that they've achieved their goal. He then mentions that now that their work is done, the villagers and dog owner are no longer needed. One less person means one less share of the reward. The other snake catcher, realizing what Ding means, asks if Ding had intentionally sent the villagers toward the bear's den. Ding replies affirmatively, adding that now his subordinate knows what to do. As one of the snake catchers jumps down, he tells Ding that he understands the plan: lure the bear demon out, let the villagers fight it first, and then they'll deal with the bear together. Afterward, they'll finish off the frozen snake demon. Xu Hei listens from his hidden nest, stunned by their heartlessness. He wonders why these humans would kill their own companions, realizing that even animals don't behave in such a cruel manner. The more he thinks about it, the more he understands how terrifying the human heart can be. But Xu Hei quickly stops himself from dwelling on the human's nature. He knows that the real issue is that the snake catchers are aware of his presence, putting him in imminent danger. Reflecting on their plan, Xu Hei contemplates whether he could seize the opportunity to rush out and devour the bear demon. Doing so might allow him to break through to the third level of spiritual communication all at once. If that happened, he imagines he could engage in an epic battle against the snake catchers and emerge victorious. However, Xu Hei shakes his head violently, banging it against the ground, snapping himself out of the fantasy. He scolds himself for thinking so recklessly in such a perilous situation. The reality is far grimmer. He recalls that the snake catchers mentioned they would need to work together to defeat the bear demon, meaning the bear is undoubtedly much stronger than he is right now. If the snake catchers aren't in a rush to kill him, it's because they see him as less of a threat compared to the bear. Xu Hei questions how he could possibly hope to eat the bear demon in front of the snake catchers, realizing such a move would be a death sentence. From his hidden nest, he overhears Ding mock his junior, calling him foolish. Ding adds, with a hint of regret, that it's unfortunate the two demon beasts are only enough for one of them to break through to the next level. If there were more, perhaps he would have spared his junior's life. Hearing this, Xu Hei wonders if the snake catchers are about to turn on each other. Could this infighting present him with a glimmer of hope? As Xu Hei carefully moves to the entrance of his den, intending to observe the situation and act when the moment is right, the junior snake catcher returns. He informs Ding that everything is ready and that within half an incense stick's time, the bear demon will wake up. Before long, the bear bursts out of its den, immediately attacking and killing the villagers stationed at its entrance. In the chaos, some villagers try to flee, one of them shouting in disbelief, questioning if the snake catchers had been wrong about this being the old black snake's lair. The dog owner, realizing the danger, screams at them to run for their lives and go find the snake catchers. From atop a nearby hill, the snake catchers watch the carnage unfold. The villagers, spotting them, sigh in relief, believing the snake catchers have come to save them. The dog owner, desperate, shouts that they've arrived just in time and begs for their help. But instead of offering assistance, Ding coldly dismisses them as worthless, blaming them for making a mess of things. He sneers at their pleas, reminding them that they'll all die here, showing no intention of helping. Old Man Li grabs his bow and arrow, realizing they had been led into the bear's den on purpose. The dog owner shouts in panic, accusing the snake catchers of wanting to kill them to save money. Li, seething with anger, releases an arrow aimed at the junior snake catcher. The junior quickly sidesteps, dodging the arrow, but it strikes his bag of pills instead, spilling them on the ground. The junior sneers but appraises Li's archery skills, impressed by the old man's accuracy. As Xu Hei watches their quarrel, he catches the scent of something peculiar. His senses sharpen as he recognizes the smell. It's the Hui Yuan pill, a rare and powerful human pill. His mouth begins to water as he grabs one of the pills, marveling at its miraculous properties. Even just the smell makes his cold, stiff body feel like it's coming back to life. The junior snake catcher calls out to Ding, pointing out that his storage bag has spilled and asking for help, all while the bear demon inches closer. As Ding bends down to pick up the scattered pills, he scolds the junior for being careless, but internally, he curses him as a fool, knowing that whatever pills he collects will now be his. The bear continues to wreak havoc, chomping down on the fleeing villagers, while the junior praises Ding's brilliant plan, remarking that all the worthless peasants are dead, though he hadn't expected the older villagers to last this long. Ding coldly replies that sacrificing their lives for the snake catcher sect is not a waste, showing no remorse for the carnage below. The junior, now conjuring a bright light in his hand, surprises Ding by demanding he go down and join the fight as well, invoking the law of their sect. Ding, caught off guard by the sudden command and display of power, fails to react in time. The junior, Zhao Wenju, casts a spell that sends Ding flying off the hill and into the path of the bear, which had just finished slaughtering the villagers. As Ding crashes to the ground, the bear stands on its hind legs, towering over him. Struggling to get up, Ding realizes with horror that he has been betrayed by Zhao. Zhao, now levitating using his wind control technique, mocks Ding, saying that anger harms the liver. Ding, enraged, curses Zhao, vowing that he will die a horrible death. Hovering above, Zhao smirks and tells Ding that he had been preparing for this moment for a long time. He asks if Ding really thought he could keep all the demon beasts to himself, accusing him of underestimating his intelligence. Zhao declares that now everything belongs to him, stating he doesn't care about the snake or bear demon, his only goal was to see Ding die. Laughing maniacally, Zhao taunts Ding, telling him his breakthrough materials are right in front of him and daring him to take them if he has the skill. Desperate, Ding pulls out a talisman, cursing Zhao as a bastard as he activates it, causing a massive explosion. Zhao, observing from the air, laughs, acknowledging that Ding is truly insane, even in his final moments. As the explosion rocks the battlefield, the bear roars in pain, parts of Ding's body now scattered across the ground. Zhao, still hovering, realizes that this is the perfect time for him to return to the sect and report back, knowing he doesn't want to be caught in the demon bear's enraged rampage. Xu Hei, having watched the entire scene unfold from his den, notes that the bear is severely injured and that Ding is dead. He reflects on the chaos, thinking that this might just be the famous just when things seem hopeless moment. Without wasting any more time, Xu Hei swallows the Hui Yuan pill, feeling its power course through his body. With the bear weakened and the snake catchers out of the picture, Xu Hei decides that now is the time to make his move. Stepping out of his cave, Xu Hei notices a few pills lying on the ground near the entrance. Upon closer inspection, he realizes they are rejuvenation pills. Though unsure why he feels so ravenous, he wonders if he can properly absorb the pills if he eats them now. Deciding to play it safe, Xu Hei tucks the remaining 2 pills behind his teeth, planning to swallow them at a critical moment when their effect will be most needed. As he prepares himself, Xu Hei notices a pack of wolves approaching, likely drawn by the scent of blood from the carnage in the area. Xu Hei, feeling his hunger intensify after consuming the first pill, thinks that this might be a fortunate turn of events. He doesn't want to feast on human corpses, and the wolves offer him a more acceptable alternative. Without hesitation, he strikes at the nearest wolf, decapitating it in a single bite. The speed and power of his attack leave the other wolves stunned. As Xu Hei munches on the fallen wolf, the rest of the pack regains their composure and turns toward him, their eyes filled with fury. They circle him, preparing to attack as a group. Xu Hei, using the Demon God's Cauldron to quickly digest the wolf, realizes that one kill isn't nearly enough to satisfy his insatiable hunger. Without waiting for the pack to strike, he lashes out again, taking off another wolf's head before the others can react. As the fight continues and Xu Hei kills more wolves, the gnawing hunger inside him only grows stronger. He questions what is happening to his body, unable to understand why he feels so ravenous and out of control. Even as he feeds, the hunger persists, leaving him wondering if something deeper is at play. As Xu Hei strangles another wolf, the rest of the pack flees in fear, terrified that they might be next. Xu Hei ponders whether the bear demon in front of him, so rich in demonic energy, is causing his insatiable hunger, making the wolves seem insufficient to satisfy him. He notices the bear licking its wounds, but to his surprise, it suddenly strikes at an approaching wolf and devours it. The sight makes Xu Hei flinch, realizing that despite the bear's severe injuries, it remains incredibly strong. From the earlier battle between the bear demon and the snake catchers, Xu Hei deduces that the bear has likely reached the 3rd peak of spiritual cultivation, while he himself is still stuck at the 2nd peak. Trying to calm his mind, Xu Hei tells himself not to let his hunger cloud his judgment. But as he watches the bear, his body betrays him, drooling uncontrollably. He wonders if this overwhelming hunger is coming from the Demon God's Cauldron inside him. As his stomach continues to growl, Xu Hei speculates that the cauldron is urging him to consume the bear demon. Although the bear's cultivation is higher than his own, it is severely weakened. He realizes that running away forever will never allow him to grow stronger. Analyzing the situation, Xu Hei concludes that the bear might have used up the last of its strength when it struck the wolves. He reasons that as long as he fights cautiously, his chances of victory should be decent. Emboldened, Xu Hei decides to risk it all. He leaps at the bear demon, but before he can strike, the bear grabs him by the tail, crushing him in its powerful grip. Xu Hei coughs up blood, the force of the attack shocking him. In desperation, he uses the sharp golden scales on his tail to strike at the bear's eyes, blinding it and causing it to roar in agony. As the bear covers its wounded eyes, Xu Hei crashes into the snow, groaning in pain. He realizes now that the bear is at least 10 times stronger than the pufferfish demon he fought before. However, with the bear's eyes blinded, Xu Hei believes he now has the upper hand. He thinks that one more decisive strike will end the battle. But his body feels stiff, the effects of the previous pill wearing off, and he realizes he can't move as freely anymore. Desperate, Xu Hei swallows another rejuvenation pill, hoping to regain some warmth and energy. With renewed strength, he leaps at the bear again, sinking his massive jaws into its neck. The bear thrashes violently, screaming in pain, but Xu Hei holds on tightly. As the bear struggles and delivers powerful blows to Xu Hei, he feels his bones cracking under the pressure. Xu Hei continues to bite down on the bear's neck, refusing to let go even as the bear strikes him repeatedly. He knows he must crush its throat before it's too late. His jaws tighten with more force, causing the bear to scream in agony as blood gushes from its neck. But suddenly, the bear manages to grab Xu Hei and hurls him into the ground with a heavy thud. The bear, too weakened to stay upright, flops to the ground, growling in pain. Xu Hei notices the deep slash in the bear's throat, realizing that it won't live much longer. Knowing he just needs to finish it off from a safe distance, Xu Hei picks up a wooden log having learned that rocks are ineffective against the demon bear's tough body. With great effort, he throws the log at the bear, striking its skull and causing a gruesome spatter of blood as the bear's head is crushed. Approaching cautiously, Xu Hei speculates that the demon bear should be dead this time, but still wary, he decides to meditate and heal while keeping a close eye on the bear's corpse. Suddenly, he hears movement nearby and realizes it's the wolves. He immediately recognizes their cunning nature and shouts at them, warning them to back off. He accuses the wolves of trying to steal his prey, his spoils. As the wolves surround him, Xu Hei asserts that the bear is his and he won't let them take it. Internally, however, he realizes he has no other option. He swallows the last rejuvenation pill, preparing to face them all in a final confrontation. Determined to survive, he vows to kill them all. 2 hours later, Xu Hei slithers across the piles of dead wolves, breathing heavily, exhausted from the battle. He remarks that, for now, he should finally be safe. Xu Hei notices that the rejuvenation pill's effects are fading, and he is still injured. Realizing he needs a secure place to hide and refine the energy he's absorbed, he takes stock of his surroundings. Standing near the corpse of the demon bear, Xu Hei tears off a piece of cloth, reminding himself that he must avoid the snake hunters, who will surely come after him again soon. As he drags the demon bear's corpse along, slithering through the bodies of the villagers slain by the bear, Xu Hei feels a strange sense of empathy, wondering how long it will take for these people to reincarnate as humans again. Passing by another body lying near the dead hunting dogs, Xu Hei realizes it must be the dog owner. He questions why the dogs remain there, even though their master is already dead. Their bodies are stiff from the cold. He pets the dogs, feeling something unfamiliar stir inside him. Despite their master's death, they refuse to leave him, loyal to the end. After saying his silent goodbye, Xu Hei reflects on how the most cunning and treacherous survive, realizing that he, too, must endure and live on, no matter what he may become in the future. Xu Hei finds refuge in a cave, noting a hidden water pool inside that most people wouldn't notice, making it a relatively safe spot. He decides to begin refining the bear demon meat while he still has the strength to move. As he struggles to consume the meat, he is struck by how good it smells, savoring the taste. He finally understands why the Demon God's Cauldron had been so restless. The moment he consumes the bear meat, the cauldron immediately begins absorbing its powerful energy, and Xu Hei feels the familiar rush of pleasure from the transformation. As the absorption completes, Xu Hei notices the growth of more golden scales on his tail, signifying that he has now broken through to the third layer of spirit communication. He counts 10 golden scales on his tail, a clear sign that he has reached the peak of this layer. Reflecting on his advancement, Xu Hei realizes that refining the bear demon's meat was the key to his breakthrough. However, he also understands that from now on, he will need much stronger prey to achieve even greater results. Dreams of power begin to fill his mind. Xu Hei envisions claiming a mountain of his own and becoming its ruler by the time spring arrives. 3 months pass, and as winter fades into spring, Xu Hei sits inside his cave, admiring the newly formed 11th golden scale on his tail. In these months, his body had grown stronger, and his spiritual sense had expanded significantly. Using this enhanced sense, he detects 2 wild boars nearby and decides to head out to stretch his muscles and grab a meal. After quickly killing the male boar, Xu Hei notices the other boar is female and pregnant. He decides against eating her, realizing that to sustain himself, he must now respect the balance of the mountain's ecosystem. These past months have taught him an important lesson about ecological balance. Since he can no longer return to the village, Xu Hei knows he must carefully manage the resources of the mountain if he is to survive here long term. Simply claiming the mountain won't be enough, he has to ensure that it continues to provide game for him. As he munches on the male boar, Xu Hei reflects on the wildlife that populates the mountain: 25 deer, 20 wild boars, 30 roe deer, and hundreds of rabbits, along with other animals. He calculates that as long as he doesn't overhunt and targets the right animals at the right time, he can meet his basic food needs without disrupting the ecosystem. However, Xu Hei knows that relying solely on hunting for cultivation won't be enough. Based on his experiences, cultivation must be fueled by unique opportunities and adventures, not just steady sustenance. With that in mind, Xu Hei decides it's time for him to return home. In Snake Valley, it is mating season, and most of the snakes have gathered to find partners. However, Xu Hei has returned for something entirely different. Despite a white snake getting close to him, clearly seeking a partner, Xu Hei suppresses his urges with strong willpower. He remembers how, over the years, every time he returned to Snake Valley, this little white snake would come looking for him. But gently nudging her away, Xu Hei tells her that they are now separated by realms of immortality and mortality, acknowledging that his path has diverged from hers. As Xu Hei roams the valley, he reflects on how much he has changed. A few years ago, he would have been shamelessly indulging in base desires, spreading his seeds everywhere. But now, having gained wisdom and enlightenment, those desires no longer interest him. This time, his focus is solely on cultivation. His thoughts shift as he arrives near a glowing tree, the snake fruit tree. Xu Hei immediately recognizes it and recalls that the snake fruit ripens every 3 years, with this spring marking the next cycle. The fruit is known to boost cultivation, especially for snakes, and Xu Hei remembers how 3 years ago, by sheer luck, he consumed one of the fruits and gained wisdom. Now, if he can consume 3 snake fruits, he wonders if it will be enough to break through to the 4th level of spiritual communication. At that mid-stage, he will be able to cast spells, no longer relying only on physical combat. Suddenly, Xu Hei senses movement through his spiritual sense. He picks up on the conversation of some people nearby. One of them, a man, is speaking to his companion, addressing her as Sister Song. The man explains that this is the place where his senior brother Ding and he discovered Snake Valley, and that the snake fruit tree is inside. Xu Hei, listening from the shadows, recognizes the voice. It belongs to the junior snake catcher who had betrayed Ding during their last encounter. The snake catcher expresses regret over his senior brother Ding, who sacrificed himself to protect him, but Sister Song reassures him not to dwell on the past, praising him for making up for his previous mistakes this time. Hearing this, Xu Hei's attention sharpens as he considers their intentions and whether they pose a threat to his plans. The snake catcher, expressing gratitude to Sister Song, tells her that she can take all the snake fruit this time, but she declines, saying there's no need to take advantage of him. She only requires 2 snake fruits for her needs. The snake catcher thanks her, adding that all spirit medicines are typically guarded by beasts, so they should be cautious. Sister Song dismisses his concerns, revealing that she borrowed a magical powder weapon from their master, which she applies to him for protection. She confidently declares that the only significant threat in the area is the old Snake King, and if it dares to appear, she'll use its gallbladder for medicine. Xu Hei, listening to their conversation from the shadows, feels his anger rising. He curls up, furious at the realization that they are here for the snake fruit, armed with weapons specifically meant to deal with him. He contemplates fleeing but quickly dismisses the idea. The snake fruit is almost ripe, and if he runs now, he risks falling right into their hands, losing the precious opportunity to strengthen his cultivation. Xu Hei reminds himself that he is at the peak of the 3rd stage of spiritual communication, and while the snake catchers may seem prepared, he recalls that both the eel demon and bear demon had killed snake catchers before. His confidence builds as he considers that they may not be as formidable as they appear. However, before he can act, a strong stinging smell fills the air, causing all the snakes in the valley to pass out. Xu Hei struggles to stay conscious, realizing the potency of the magical powder. Desperate, he leaps into a nearby pond, hoping the water will shield him from the effects of the powder. He hides beneath the surface, watching closely, hoping the snake catchers might turn on each other. After all, humans are often prone to internal conflict. As they walk across the valley, the snake catcher asks Sister Song what their plan is if the Snake King doesn't appear. She replies confidently that they can simply take the snake fruit, though she believes the Snake King will show up. She explains that the old Snake King has lived for over 10 years and is nearing the end of its life. It's likely counting on the snake fruit to extend its lifespan. Xu Hei, hiding behind a rock and listening to their conversation, curses them silently. His anger flares, and he thinks bitterly that their lives, and the lives of their entire families, will be at an end. He knows his physical abilities have grown much stronger, dismissing Sister Song's words as nonsense. Yet, a thought creeps into his mind: why have the villagers been calling him the old black snake? He quickly dismisses the thought, realizing it's not important to dwell on it now. The snake catchers are closing in on the snake fruit, and that's what matters. Suddenly, Sister Song tells the snake catcher not to move yet, saying that the old black snake is about to appear. The snake catcher looks around, confused, asking where it is. Xu Hei, hidden and tense, starts to panic internally. How could she possibly have noticed him? Suddenly, the rock pillars shatter, and a massive creature emerges from the smoke. The senior sister, Song, notices the attack and quickly warns the snake catcher, telling him it's behind them and to hide. The enormous snake strikes, but the 2 snake catchers manage to dodge just in time, causing the snake to crash into the ground. With a smirk, Sister Song comments that the old black snake has finally revealed itself. Xu Hei, hidden nearby, is utterly stunned. He never expected this and wonders if this massive creature is, in fact, the real old black snake. Confused, he questions whether he had become an imposter all along. As Xu Hei speculates, he wonders if this ancient snake had caused chaos in the past, making a name for itself. Perhaps, when it aged and stopped appearing, he unknowingly took the blame 3 years ago when he ventured out, leading people to believe he was the old black snake. As Xu Hei contemplates his false identity, the real old black snake rises and attempts to strike Sister Song, who smiles maliciously and casts the swamp curse. A mud barrier forms in front of the snake, blocking its attack. The two forces collide with incredible power, sending a shockwave throughout the valley. Xu Hei, from his hiding spot, feels the ground tremble beneath him. Observing the intense battle, Xu Hei realizes both sides are formidable. The snake catchers are far stronger than he initially thought, but the old black snake, though aged, still fights fiercely. As Sister Song leaps into the air, she summons another treasure, the spirit-sealing bell. Xu Hei watches in awe as she unleashes its power, the bell sound reverberating in all directions, attacking the old black snake with waves of sound. As Sister Song jumps away from the old black snake, she throws a blade shuriken at it, but it merely bounces off its tough scales without leaving a scratch. Impressed but undeterred, Song comments on how strong the snake's scales are, adding that if she could skin the snake, she could craft a set of treasure armor. The other snake catcher, admiring her skill, agrees but points out that the old black snake isn't something one person can defeat alone. He offers his assistance. As they both engage in battle with the snake, Sister Song instructs the snake catcher to activate his wind blade talisman. The snake catcher agrees, confident that they'll be able to kill the old black snake now. Their combined attacks begin to show results as the snake falters, and the snake catcher notes that their plan is working. Xu Hei, still hidden and observing the fight, is impressed by how effectively the humans are using their weaponry. He realizes that Sister Song is far stronger than the previous snake catchers he encountered. Watching the old black snake struggling, Xu Hei considers whether he should intervene and help or simply steal the snake fruit and escape. However, he remembers that the snake fruit isn't fully ripe yet, and taking it too soon might not benefit him. Grabbing a rock from the pond, Xu Hei decides to secretly help the old black snake since they are both snake demons. Just as he prepares to act, he hears movement near the snake fruit tree. He immediately shouts toward the sound, demanding to know who it is. A figure near the tree, not hearing Xu Hei's shout, tugs at the roots of the snake fruit tree. The person mutters to himself, pleased with how the snake catchers lured the old black snake away, giving him the perfect opportunity to steal the tree for himself. Before the thief can carry out his plan, Xu Hei launches himself toward him, mouth wide open, enraged. He calls the man a bastard for digging up the roots of the snake fruit tree and reminds him that he's as good as dead now. Thank you guys for watching till the end. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.